Hey guys, some quick news before I start the video today. Next week, likely I'll be on the road traveling. I'm going to shoot a probably 2 to 4 part video series, depending on how we break it down with someone's collection. At this point, I'm pretty sure that's going to happen. Just waiting for the confirmation, but pretty sure we'll be doing that. But I'll break it up because otherwise it would be, a really long video. But for this week, what I'm going to do is ways to settle in a new snake, or acclimating your animal to your environment. So I have one of my side swipes here with me that I produced. He is, I want to say, a 2017 animal, so he's 2 years old and a little bit. He was a late clutch that year. He's a male though, so letting him grow slow. He should be ready to breed next year. He probably could breed this year, but I haven't put him in with anything yet. Anyhow though, so when you get a new animal, probably the most important thing really is before you get the animal, you really want to start with an established animal, an animal that you know is feeding, an animal that you know has, acclimated well to wherever it's coming from. So your best bet with that is to start with a breeder as opposed to, purchasing from a wholesaler or somebody that doesn't really know much background about the animal, may not have even tried to feed the animal in its care or really done anything with it other than take it in and sell it to you. So if you start with an established breeder, not only do they know that animal better than anybody else, but you also have that person in your corner now when you need to ask questions or any issues that come up. When you have an issue with one of these wholesalers and you say, hey, the snake's not eating, they're going to give you some run-of-the-mill stuff, but it may not really help you because they don't know that animal any more than you do. You probably know it more at that point than they do, and that's kind of a scary thought. So starting with somebody that's established with an established animal will really save you a lot of potential headaches. Sorry, with the sun, I have to have the camera so much closer than usual, so I'm like holding this dude up in my face. He's handling it pretty well so far, though. We'll see how he does. So one of the things that I would recommend as far as priorities go is prioritizing security. It's probably the most important thing to get a snake to settle in. Obviously, settling in is feeling comfortable in their environment and comfortable enough to perform the functions they need to be healthy and survive. So prioritizing security really will help you do that. Ways that you can do that, obviously, you don't really want to handle a new animal until it's established. My general rule is at least 2 consistent meals in a row before you start any recreational handling. So if you need to go in there and move the animal in order to clean its enclosure, or you need to change water, whatever you do, that stuff should still be done. But keep in mind that the animal isn't settled in yet, and so you're going to want to make this as quick and painless as possible. So even if you have to use equipment you don't normally use to move the snake efficiently without stressing them out, that's the time to do it and to go from there. But obviously you do want to keep clean, fresh water in there, and you do want to do that, but everything is minimum at that point. Go in as least often as you can while still maintaining that level of care. And like I said, security is important, so you may want to, use hides at that point. You may want to consider substrates. It's also important to consider during this period that you're going to be quarantining the animal. And so the easier it is to keep an eye on things and the easier it is to clean, the better off you are as far as quarantine goes. So most people, when they're quarantining a snake, the snake is probably going to the bathroom on me during this. I can feel stuff shifting now. Prioritizing that, so you want to, paper towels if you can, a simple plastic hide, a simple water dish, plastic, whatever. Just stuff that's really, really easy to get in, to get out, clean, and, be able to quarantine that animal, but still do what you need to do for its care. And obviously it's important. We'll do a video at some point on quarantine. A lot of it is really common sense, but there are some things that people don't think about. But obviously you do want every new addition to be in quarantine for the safety of your other animals. Obviously, if it's your only snake and it's your first, that's not something that's a huge deal. But still, the more sterile you keep that environment at that point, the easier it is to pinpoint if something that pops up is husbandry related, or if it's something that was existing. I love the fact that he's trying to go up and check this thing out. So, you definitely can offer hides at that point. Typically, most new additions are going to be babies. Smaller enclosures are typically better for babies in general anyway. It just makes them feel more secure. If you are going to offer them more space, then it's really, really important that they have places to retreat to where they feel safe and they have some, snug, secure hides to go into. With bloods and short tails, I find they're really not snakes that want to go into hides. They will if that's what's there for them, but mostly they want to be able to see all around them, and a hide kind of prevents that, but they don't want you to see them, so they do want to be in a situation where they can see around them, you can't see them. So if you think about it from that perspective, even if you're using paper, multiple layers, simple things as we went over in the enrichment video there, are things you can do to offer that without, going crazy and using any kind of substrate or whatever it is that you're using. Now, substrate in itself can provide security, so if you're using something they can burrow in, that may help. But like I said, you want to balance that with the ability to quarantine. I gotta put him down for a second. I'm gonna try to shift this camera a bit just because the sun's changing and it's screwing it all up. So hopefully that'll be a little better. Pick him back up. So the other reason why getting the animal from established source is important is when you set up an animal, it's best to mimic the environment that it's used to and where it was successfully eating. So talking to that breeder and being able to say, hey, can you tell me exactly how you were keeping that animal? They'll be able to tell you the enclosure size, how it was set up, with hide, without hide, what kind of substrate they were using. They'll be able to tell you, temperature, whatever it is, and then you'll be able to mimic that environment more. And that really helps with the adjustment period. If the animal's not adjusting to so many things, it has a certain level of comfort and familiarity, that'll definitely help the process for you. And then it's just going to be adjusting to, the new smells in your house. You're never ever going to be able to get, temperature exactly where it was at the previous home. Even if you're shooting the same temperature, they'll notice the difference. So, things like that, they're going to have to adjust to. The way you handle them is going to be different than somebody else. The way I'm handling this snake, you do the same thing, he might bite you because he doesn't have that same level of comfort that he does with me. And I don't handle this snake very often at all. He's not really one of those snakes that really wants to interact with you, so I typically leave him be. But as long as, he knows me, he's pretty much handling things without any issue. So, keep that in mind too. The animals are going to be adjusting to you. Your body temperature when you hold them is going to be slightly different than, somebody else's. So all those things are things that they have to get used to that are new. Anybody want a cat? I absolutely hate that animal. It's my life. She just does this all the time for years and years and years. Cat, shut up. So we went over no recreational handling, only handle if you have to. We went over, kind of leaving them be as much as you can, just doing water checks and that, which is, essentially the same thing. Setting it up close to their prior home will really help you out. Getting an established animal is a huge thing. I had one baby this year that I sent out that I knew was going to be a bit tough for the new home and was going to take a while to adjust. Normally my animals take no time to adjust, but she took a while to adjust out of the egg. She took a while to adjust to any little tweak that I made. Just was a very different animal in that regard. So before I sent her out, I made sure she ate consistent meals for a while because I knew she would take a bit. And she took about a month before she took food there, which is far and away the longest an animal of mine has ever taken. Most of my animals will honestly usually eat, same day, next day, within a week, depending on the home they're going to or what's going on. But they usually establish very quickly and settle in quickly. Also, part of that is as a breeder, I do take the time and go over with people and make sure they have a setup that's going to be similar enough to what the animal's used to. And if I don't think the animal's going to be comfortable in what they have, then I'll either give them the opportunity to change it or I'll just, tell them that we're not able to make the sale. Because I don't want the animals to go into an environment where they're not going to be comfortable. That's super important to me. These are essentially, lifetime commitments. Even if I sell it to somebody else, I feel committed to that animal since, it in part exists because of what I've done. So that's just personal responsibility that I feel and I think is a good angle to come from. But security all day is what's really going to win the day for getting them to be comfortable. And then eventually, you go to that, handling defensive hatchling video that I did, and that's a good place to start there if you're working with animals defensive. Even if it's not defensive, moving kind of slow isn't going to hurt with a baby. Really let it kind of figure things out. These guys are pretty intelligent, so they'll learn consistency and they'll learn, what they should be nervous about and what they shouldn't. Every once in a while, you get one that just doesn't want to change their ways. but it's not very common, especially if you're buying from a good source and you're, you know, putting in the homework and doing everything you can to make them comfortable. So if anybody has questions on this or comments, as always, you know, leave them below. Don't forget to subscribe if you're interested in following the videos that I do, especially coming up. There's gonna be some really cool stuff in that collection visit that I'm doing. Stuff that there's not a lot of videos out there of, so that'll be pretty awesome. So keep that in mind. You know, subscribe, like, do all those kinds of things, comment. Check out my other videos on here as well. I think I'm in the 20s now as far as what I've done. Love to hear feedback, negative, positive, whatever it is, you know, feel free. And once again, anybody looking for a cat, I got one for you. Cat, shut up. That typically works, but it only lasts so long and then the cycle starts again. So, you know, feel free, let me know, hit me up about that. I'll even throw in a pin a $20 bill to her in a gentle way. We'll see you guys.